So welcome, Joanna, our brilliant colleague. We so appreciate your leadership. And as always at Setsi, we begin by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Joanna, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for that intro. So my name is Joanna Buczkowska Mccumber. I go by she, her. I am joining you from the unceded and traditional lands of the Lekwungen speaking people. And I'm very, very fortunate to be here as a settler from originally from Poland. And the work that I do is very much sort of at this nexus of strategy, growth, and sustainability and impact. And I run a organization called Ideas for Impact. We are a sustainability agency that really sort of takes this ethos of we're your sustainability team on demand. So we work with organizations that are impact focused. We work with companies, and we also work with financial institutions like funds and private equity funds to really help them develop sustainability and impact capacity internally within their organization so that they can actually reach and meet the impact that they desire in this world. And so that's really sort of the work in a nutshell. But I have the privilege of working with many leaders and organizations across Canada and beyond, from everything from health to technology to consumer products.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. And I love the name Ideas for Impact. It's so appealing and compelling. And I'm a huge fan of your work. So my next question, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at night?
No, wow, big question. For me, well, what keeps me up at night, we'll start with that one, is really this need in the world to, I believe, move more meaningfully towards the work of true sustainability and impact, without being sort of inauthentic or greenwashed or really just there as an opportunity to make more money. And so a lot of the times I really think about, how do we really enable people and organizations and leaders to really think about, the opportunities in sustainability and the opportunities in impact, not only from the financial angle, because I think that's such a huge tension in the world. And now we know we've got so many examples of companies and organizations that have done really good work from a sustainability and social perspective without, undermining their profits. But in order to do that, they really had to always focus on the impact component really meaningfully. And so how do we actually bring all of this to the masses of organizations across, North America and the world, without it being diluted? That's what always keeps me up at night, right? It's like this tension of like, we grow larger, that's great, but do we then dilute that really meaningful impact or sustainability work that was sort of the origin of somebody's, impact story? And at the same time, that also, while that keeps me up at night, I'm also very curious about all of these individuals that do that really well and try to really explore really, different versions of what, impact can look like. And really, I think, I look at like Indigenous communities and leaders from historically historically excluded groups of individuals who are really like questioning a lot of people's eyes in terms of really thinking about what questions do we need to ask big business, what questions do we have to ask of financial institutions, and like what are like different paths, organization ways that are much more rooted in positive impact.
That's incredible. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
The challenges piece is a big one. I think that there's a lot of organizations and leaders that do genuinely want to make change in the work that they do, that they want to have really positive impact in the world, but yet they're really within a system or an organization that still has a lot of, traditional thinking, and perhaps is still stuck in old ways of doing work and running a business. And I think so much of the work that I do in bringing sustainability or impact conversations to companies and company cultures is about change management and about changing the perspective that people approach their work and approach working with each other and creating products and services for the world. And I think that is a big challenge because, as you know, like change management is really hard, and change is very hard for people. And so it's really like and everybody comes to it at a different place and with a different approach. And so it is a big like exercise in perspective change for individuals, and sometimes organizations and those groups of people or that culture, they're ready for it, and other times that takes much longer. And so a lot of the work that we do is like building capacity internally and helping teams really understand what it is, first of all, that we're talking about, what we're asking of them, and how can they be part of that journey in a way that's authentic to them, that's really meaningful to them, that maybe actually like leverages their own skills without them feeling alienated from this process. And so how can we really like bring everybody together on this journey? I think that is a big challenge because every organization is very unique, is very different. As we know, everybody in this world is different. Everybody learns differently. Everybody, comes from different background, not just educationally, but from their socioeconomic backgrounds and culturally. And so how do we actually help them all work together towards, a common vision that they might have in a company or organization? And so I find that it can be a challenging piece, and really, creating that space for people to start thinking about that is sometimes a lot of the work that I do when we do workshops and live sessions. It's, I always position that as like, hey, this is going to be messy because we're actually trying to break down what you're used to doing and try to do things in a different way, and that can be very uncomfortable.
I
Right.
couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. So my next question, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work that you'd like to share with the thought leaders and practitioners within our community of practice?
Great. I think for me, in terms of my key priorities is there's a couple, and the first and foremost is like the same as, I talk about working with my clients or organizations that I work with. It's like, how can we actually, my goal is like, how do I bring the knowledge that I have, the learnings that I have, both in building really sound sustainability strategy, and then also, in bringing impact into an organization. How do we scale that, right? How do we make sure that every organization, just as an example in Canada, has the tools to do the work, but also has the knowledge and the skills to be able to execute on a sustainability strategy, on a move towards making greater and more meaningful impact? How can we actually do that? So that's a big priority for me on figuring that out and making sure that I'm working with all the right partners, all the amazing folks that we have in this country that are doing this work, and they might be doing it in a silo or in a region, but how can we actually bring this to everybody? What we've seen is, we're seeing really large climate disclosure regulation coming down, and soon to be implemented, not just in the US or Europe, but also in Canada. And so how can that what is that going to mean for everybody else? And to date, a lot of, small to medium-sized companies, startups, even not all nonprofit organizations haven't really necessarily paid attention to this space. And what I always talk about is this is probably going to affect a lot of different people, not just the big, financial institutions or public companies. So how can we prepare everybody for this shift to this climate future that we're actually already in, right? So that is a big priority for me. The second is really, this is like a piece of curiosity and interest for me, having been in this, again, at this intersection of strategy and sustainability and the startup world, and seeing now finally, more people paying attention to impact focused startups. But my priority is to figure out how do we support all those startups that might not be just clean tech, right? Like, clean tech and climate tech are the things of the now. They're the sexy pieces that everybody's talking about and investing in, but there's so many other solutions as well that are focused on making our world more sustainable, from different types of consumer packaged goods to food, um, to sort of non-clean tech technologies. And so like, how do we actually invest and flow money into those as well? We know that, you know, if you're building something, you need funding. How do we find that funding to actually boost up those solutions that people are building, and so that they can actually realize the impact that they're trying to achieve? I think that's another big priority for me. Is like, how do we actually do that? I know in your work, you probably see that all the time. You know, how do we bring more funding to all of this good work, without being stuck in this scarcity cycle that I know a lot of impact focused organizations and leaders can really get stuck in? And I've been there before myself, so I recognize that what that looks like.
I couldn't agree more. And we see it so often, even though we live in a world of such great abundance, that scarcity cycle
Yeah,
is almost
yeah,
forced, like a forced resilience on some of the most innovative
yeah,
nonprofits, purpose organizations, and community service organizations.
yeah,
So I couldn't agree
yeah,
more. I think, well, as you mentioned, I'm really excited to see ways that folks can collaborate around what it looks like, specifically around the climate disclosure piece. At Setsi, we've done a lot around the Climate Aligned Finance Act, CAFA. Canada has some
yeah,
policies that
yeah,
our remarkable colleague, Senator Rosa Galvez, has put on the floor for a
yeah,
bill. But definitely, like, preparing the public, private, and philanthropic sectors for
yeah.
this new world is really important. So once again, I appreciate your leadership and tenacity around that. So my second last question: what is your ultimate goal, and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Uh, Such a big question. You know, for me, success is looks like ensuring that, you know, all organizations actually have the tools, the skills, and the resources to create impact, in the way that they want to realize it. And in Canada, but also down south, you know, for me, that is that's a sign of success. If the people, all the organizations and that I work with are able to actually reach their impact, that's amazing. That's success, right? Because that means, you know, I've been able to provide them some kind of motivation or the tools or the skills or the internal capacity to be able to do that. And I think that is so important. And that's really, you know, the way that I see, like, if the more we have of these organizations actually succeeding and being able to share their stories, motivate and sort of inspire others to do it, it's sort of that like trickle down effect of like, the more we'll see being built in the ecosystem. That's a big piece of you know, something that I look forward to and that I always talk about. If every company is going to be thinking about this, then that's a, you know, success as well. If again, it doesn't have to be me doing all the work, but it's like, if all companies across Canada, if they are all considering sustainability and impact, and organizations, that is amazing, right? If we're actually making that as important as doing your accounting, that is, I think, a success too, because that means like we've shifted what's a priority for everybody that's running an entity. And I think that's really exciting. And I think we're moving in the right direction to actually realize that.
Yeah, I think if we can get to a place where it's important as accounting, we have won. Because most of
Yeah,
the
right.
best of folks. So I
Right.
yeah. So my last question:
Yeah.
any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
So you know, I think my big call to action for everybody listening is to think about, you know, do we really understand, as an organization or a business or a leader or an individual, do I know the impact that I'm having or that we're having in the world, beyond just like the outputs that we always talk about, like this many people like came to my session, or like I was able to work with this many clients? That's awesome, but do we actually understand the impact that has in the community or on the environment or for a group of individuals? Like, are you able to actually talk about it? And then if so, are you sharing that story? Because I think that is another big piece. Can we then actually be sharing all of these stories and narratives of impact being realized. If we are able to do that, then again, like it's sort of that trickle down effect, we can motivate and inspire others. So, you know, that's the big call to action. Can you actually say and pinpoint down the big impact that you desire in this world, and can you actually share the stories about that? I think that's an important sort of first conversation, and recognizing, am I doing that work? Are we thinking about the right things in my organization, or are we just thinking about these very transactional output pieces that, you know, we've been conditioned to think about? So, you know, can we really get out of that and really start thinking about the bigger impact that we're having?
Ashe. Transaction and outputs is not what it's at. I think it's definitely a
No.
transformation and
Yeah.
outcome. Yeah. Transformation, outcome, and
Yeah.
impact. For sure. Appreciate
Yeah.
your remarkable leadership, tenacity, resilience, and the authenticity that you bring to this work, and your solidarity. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. And as always, at Setsi, we close the way we began this conversation by giving thanks to the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled, our compassionate compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Joanna, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Amazing. Thank you.